You know, it's a very unusual storm in a couple of respects. It's lasted for a while. You know, in Texas, every once in a while, we'll get cold snaps, but we don't get a lot of snow, and we don't get snow that persists. But it started snowing here on Sunday night here, our time, and here we are on 5 days later, and there's still 5 inches of snow on the ground. That's unusual. It's statewide. That's unusual. We're just not built for this.
Of course, hundreds of thousands are without electricity. How are they coping in these freezing temperatures? I'm seeing pictures of people using their stovetops to keep themselves warm.
Sure, they're using their stovetops. If they've got fireplaces, they're using those. I've got friends who are experimenting with things like if you put candles under an inverted flower pot, apparently that heats a little space a little bit. I've got one friend who built kind of a tent out of blankets for him and his wife and his child in their home, and they've been kind of huddling in there for several days. Everybody's making do.
Now, what about people who live in lower socioeconomic areas, who live in smaller apartments? They can't open fireplaces, for instance. What's your understanding of people in this situation?
You know, it's a dire situation. The temperatures outside have been in the single digits and in the teens at best. We haven't broken the freezing mark for several days, and people in those situations, if they don't have heat, you know, very quickly your home or your apartment begins to feel like the weather outside, and that's not a great condition for living. It's not a great condition for getting along. One of the other problems is because of the snow and the ice, it's very difficult to go someplace else. You know, it might be if something's broken in my house, I go to a neighbor's house or to a friend's house. But in this situation, you can't go anywhere, so you're kind of stuck.
And there is also that double whammy of not only water disruptions, but also water contamination.
Right. The problem is when you break a water main, you expose the water in that main to the elements, and you just don't know what's in there. So out of an abundance of caution, I don't know that they've had any cases of anyone getting sick, but out of an abundance of caution, the city of Austin and other places around the state, as I said, around 7 million of our residents have been told, boil your water before you ingest it.
And so is water adequately being distributed to those who can't get access to it?
For the most part. You know, one of the problems with a freeze in a place where you're not built for freezing, this isn't Michigan after all, in a place like this, the pipes freeze. And when the pipes freeze, you lose your water supply. And then when the water supply comes back, you've got a burst water pipe. All of that time you don't have water. So there are people in various levels and various conditions of distress.
Of course, in this state of disaster, then what are the main challenges and priorities for the emergency authorities to get to the people who are most in need?
The first thing is they're trying very, very hard to get power back online. Water is a little behind that, but they want to make sure people have water. And they're just now to the point where they're able to get to a lot of these people. We do have some large places, arenas and things like that are set up as warming stations. And to the extent that people can be transported, you know, a lot of people have volunteered. People with four-wheel drive cars and trucks who can get around a little bit better on the ice have volunteered and are taking people from homes where it's become inhospitable to these warming places. But I think we have a lot of people that are still in distress.
And all of this is happening as there's talk about the Texas Senator Ted Cruz going to Mexico for a holiday. I know that he said he's coming back on Thursday, U.S. time. How is this going down over there?
It's going poorly. He was one of the big critics of other elected officials, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, the local mayor here in Austin, Steve Adler, when they went traveling and out to dinner and various things when they were supposed to be at home socially distancing and when they were telling everybody else to do that. Ted Cruz was razzing them quite strongly, and now he's getting his own given back to him. He went to Cancun when the state is in distress. His house in Houston apparently didn't have heat. It's a very bad look, and he's lucky he's not up for re-election for another 4 years.
Of course, as you mentioned, the midterms, there are there political impacts for the Republicans?
Yeah, I think, you know, by the time we get to the midterms, much of this will have washed off. Now, the question in Texas is whether local politicians, the governor, the lieutenant governor, people like that, suffer for their handling of this winter problem and, in a more general sense, for their handling of the pandemic. We'll see how that goes. But Ted Cruz won't be on the ballot till 2024.
And finally, before I let you go, Ross, what sort of conditions are we expecting in the next few days in the short term?
We're expecting probably 48 hours to get above freezing, so we'll start to thaw some of this out. The electric utilities are beginning to get people back online. That's going more slowly than we would like, but it's proceeding. So they're getting people back online. And then when we thaw, we find out how many of those frozen pipes are burst and what the plumbers have to do to clean it up. I think we're in for a long, long weekend.
Okay, Ross Ramsey, really good to speak with you, and all the best, and stay safe up there.
A pleasure. Thank you.